Hello, welcome to Spotlight, springing into creative colour.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, we hear about a forthcoming production of one of the iconic works of Shakespeare. Speak to a local author as she releases her 5th book. Catch up with all things drag as they go Gaga. And we hear a little reading from Manx poet Simon Maddrell's collection, Patient L1. Remember, do get in touch with any creative, artistic endeavours you might be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or you really want to. Yes, you know it. But in the spotlight, poetic, theatrical, musical, literary, ceramic, sculpture, drag on this evening, mime, digital, calligraphy on the other week, lots others. Get in touch. Howard Kane at manxradio.com. That's C-A-I-N-E for Kane, or just spotlight at manxradio.com. I'd love to hear from you. A few of you do get in touch. It'd be lovely if there were more. As we were saying last week, fans of the Bard are in for a bit of a treat this year with not one, but 2 major productions taking place on the island. At the back end of the summer, we see an outdoor performance, promenade style, of the classic comedy A Midsummer Night's Dream in the grounds of Government House, as we've heard here on Spotlight, of course, and we'll doubtless be hearing more about that in the coming months. But muchly before that, next month to be exact, the Gaiety Theatre, of course, plays host to a major production of the classic tragedy Macbeth, staged by Parados Theatre Company. It promises to be a full-on classic-style performance of the iconic work, which is a study of greed and power, unchecked ambition and betrayal, complete with, I am told, realistic battle scenes with proper swords. None of your cardboard swords here. To find out more, I had a chat with Charlie Williams from Parados, who's also playing Malcolm, and well-known local actress Gemma Varnham playing Lady Macbeth. And I began by asking Charlie if it was a play the company Parados had always had in mind.
Oh, yeah, it's one of the big ones. Of course you wanted to do it. And I think that for this year we had the opportunity to go into the Gaiety, because when we started we did Much Ado About Nothing at King William's College, which was very well received. Then in 2023 we did the outdoor production of The Merchant of Venice in the Villa Marina Gardens, which went exceptionally well. And this time round we had the opportunity to go into the Gaiety, and so and Alex and I wanted to do something, one of the big ones, something you want to grasp by the horns and really take for a ride and see what you can do with that. And I think the Gaiety is such a wonderful big theatre that you've got to do a big production.
Yeah, it's got to stand out one way or another, hasn't it? Do you think, are you going for a classic approach, a sort of standard approach? Are you going for something far out?
No, we're going with a classic approach because one of the reasons was we have had the opportunity with this production to offer it out to the island's schools. And I know when I was growing up and reading Macbeth, among other Shakespeare plays, in a classroom setting, it can be very dry and very dull and you don't really understand it. And so we wanted to give students the opportunity to come and see the production at the Gaiety, and we think, one, the classic setting will allow them to, the references within the play are to the time, so if you keep it to the classic setting it allows for that. And also everybody loves a good sword fight. Everyone loves, and we want to do a good sword fight. So if you don't like Shakespeare and you just like a good action film, there might be something in this for you, So the classic setting is really the way we've gone here.
So you're going the whole hog with these things. So are you sort of going down the line of choreographed fights and such like?
Yeah. No. So we're building a set. There's going to be effects in the show. There's going to be sword fight. I've just had the swords arrive actually from our provider, so they are stage combat weapons. It's not a case of hitting 2 sticks together and then somebody falls on the floor. It's what we want to do, it's going to be properly choreographed, and the director's properly choreographed it, and part of the rehearsals is that process. So we are putting a lot of effort into this, and hopefully it's going to be something that excites audiences as well as impresses them.
Gemma, Lady Macbeth, you were saying, well, as Charles was just mentioning there, it is a sort of a mountain, I suppose, for a lot of people, or one of these sort of things that if you're into acting or an actor or an actress, you might want to do some of these real classic roles. Has this been on your radar?
I think since I studied it at school when I was about 14, I've been coveting this role. I have wanted to be in a Shakespeare for years and years. I studied a lot of it at uni, but never got the chance to be in a full production. And for my first one to be this play and this role is fantastic. and very exciting.
And what do you think the challenges are? Because, I mean, you're well known on the Manx stage, but this is something pretty different.
It is. I mean, I think for all of us, kind of just grappling with the language, obviously it is several centuries old, and you've got to get across the kind of beauty and the poetry of it, but also make the meaning clear to a modern audience. You've got to get that across, and you've got to find what's at the root of it, what emotion is there. You've got to find the humanity in these characters. And I think we're getting there. We're certainly kind of digging into that in rehearsals, particularly with my character and Macbeth, who have a lot of scenes together. We're really trying to find what's at the heart of these two people and their relationship, and that's how it all starts, and we work from there. And suddenly what seemed very intimidating at the start starts to make sense more, and hopefully it will to the audience too.
And I think that's the fascinating thing with Shakespeare, as we touched on there, and that for a lot of people the language might sometimes seem impenetrable. I think if you can move it and, as you say, get it across there, it isn't, if you can do it well. But the actual themes and what's being discussed, they're universal. They're things which hold every bit as true today as they did, at the time when the play was set.
Absolutely. I mean, as Charlie was saying, most people's introduction to Shakespeare is just reading it in a classroom in a very dry setting. And it's understandable that people think, this has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with my life. But everybody understands ambition and being hungry for power and making reckless choices and how power corrupts. Without, getting into real world events, I think that's still pretty relevant now.
Well, I was just about to say that now. You just think it seems very appropriate somehow at the moment to really have Macbeth going on.
We at Paradox stray very far away from political commentary, but I think Gemma is right, and Tony, our director, who's doing a fantastic job and directed our award-winning production play in the Easter Festival last year, and also listeners may know him. He directed the High School Musical last year, and he's very well known on the stage as well as off. I think said it best where he effectively described to us when as we're going through this process, I should be able to hit mute and still know what's going on, essentially, from watching the action on stage, from seeing your expressions, from seeing the responses, and it's that getting across to an audience, irrespective of the language barrier, which there is a slight thing with Shakespeare. Sometimes you can get a bit lost in the language. Clearly, as you say, relaying those themes, getting across what it's all about.
Sounds good stuff, doesn't it? Looking forward to those battle scenes. There is also an educational aspect to this staging of Macbeth, which is why it's being done in a classic style. We'll be hearing more from Charlie about that next week. In the meantime, I can tell you Macbeth is on at the Gaiety Theatre between the 3rd and 5th of April. Tickets, of course, available from villagaiety.com.
The category is Dance or Die.
Can't be often that Macbeth segues directly to Lady Gaga. Might be a world first there, who knows? But it's to Lady Gaga we go now. She's due to appear at an intimate gig at the Laxey Institute this June. Almost had you going there, didn't I? No, she isn't. But perhaps the next best thing, which she would defo approve of, is a Gaga-themed drag night at Mad Jack's coming up this very weekend. It's the brainchild of Owen Atkinson, a.k.a. Finella Beach, and Ashton Gibson, a.k.a. Nona Binary. They called by to tell me more.
So we're calling it a Lady Gaga drag club night, right? So we're going to do some performances. We're going to listen to some music of Gaga and around Gaga and all the kind of dark pop kind of vibes that she's got. And then at midnight, it's we're going to play through the entirety of Mayhem, which is the album that's just come out. So it's also an album launch party as well.
Oh, right. What was the inspiration behind this one? Are you both big fans, or?
We've both loved Lady Gaga essentially our whole lives, I think, since we were very little. And I think that we've watched her grow as an artist, and a lot of people are saying that this album is very much kind of a celebration of her entire career, which I think is why I think it feels appropriate now. And also, we've definitely been wanting to put on sort of queer dedicated club nights for a long time now.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah, doing the brunches is great, and it's a really great place to get a different kind of crowd in. But sometimes you wanna be doing drag in the nighttime, and you wanna be partying, and you wanna be dancing in the club. So that's what this is all about.
So what's the sort of format of the evening? How's it actually going to pan out?
Doors are opening at 9, and then we're gonna be partying. We've got Tom from Sideways who's DJing for us, and then at 11 we're gonna put on a drag show. So the two of us performing together and separately, bits of Gaga and like Gaga adjacent, shall we say, artists, and then all leading up to midnight, which is when we're doing the full playthrough, and we'll be on the mic talking to the crowd. Talking about Gaga. We're encouraging dress up as well, so people can come in there, in their Gaga or Gaga inspired outfits, giving some prizes for the best dressed, and just having a gay old time.
Definitely.
So you're hoping this is going to sort of attract a different crowd, a broader crowd?
Definitely. I think that a lot of people aren't able to get out to the brunches during the day, so I think a lot of people are ready for like a night out kind of vibe. So I think that we'll definitely attract hopefully our dedicated gays who always come out.
Absolutely.
But we always hope to bring new people as well, especially because I think Gaga transcends age, sexuality, gender. I think everyone likes Lady Gaga.
Yeah. And anyone who can appreciate that kind of that dedication to like theatrical, larger than life pop music, and all of that, I think everyone can appreciate. And with Mad Jacks as well. Obviously, there's people who go there on their nights. As I said, we're working with Tom from Sideways as well on it, and they've got their alternative club nights there as well. So it's going to be a nice mix of people, and hopefully some new people to come and see our shows for the first time.
Are you expecting everyone to? Because I mean, obviously she's famous for the amazing outfits she wears. Are you expecting some far out gear?
We're hoping for it, absolutely, and we're definitely encouraging it. Obviously, anyone can wear whatever they want. We want this to be like an open space where everyone can feel comfortable dressing however the hell they want, and that's always going to be the case at our events. But we're encouraging a bit of Lady Gaga inspiration, and hoping to see some cool outfits. Maybe not meat dresses. I don't know how that would be sanitarily in a club,
Probably
but
not, no.
There's lots of other inspo we can take.
Definitely.
What do you think is the attraction of Lady Gaga? As you said, she sort of does seem to cross boundaries or whatever. Is it the music? Is it the message? Is it the garb or a combination?
I think it's the unapologeticness of Lady Gaga that has made her so long lasting as an artist, because she has never once cared what other people have to say, and it just so happens that all the gays have always loved her anyway. And I think that she just continues to get more powerful. That's the thing. And I also think as drag queens, I think Gaga taught me a lot about how to be a visual performance artist.
Definitely.
Like, it's not just about what she's singing, it's about the dance and what she looks like and what she's wearing. It's
a whole package deal. And it's totally, Gaga is every element and every aspect of performance, and that very much relates to drag in a big way.
And you mentioned there as well the brunches. Are they still carrying on? Are they still going?
Yeah, so we've got our next brunch. Tickets aren't out yet, but it'll be Easter weekend. So that's going to be really exciting. We've got a few dates lined up for the year, kind of every couple of months or so. So yes, they will be back soon. Don't you worry.
We are in cahoots with both Kiki's and with sort of Mad Jacks. So we've got like a lot of great events sort of cooking up right now.
Absolutely.
And do you get a different crowd for that? Because I suppose, again, when you think drag, when you think sort of burlesque, when you think the sort of the evening type show, you do think of a more late night vibe. Do you get a very different set who come along to the brunch sets?
I think we do, maybe not very different. It's
Younger.
I would say for the club nights it tends to be younger people. But again, we get younger people at the brunches, and then again, sometimes at the brunches, sometimes people who don't want to be going out in the evening but want to be partying up during the day. But then that's not necessarily an age thing. So it really is truly. There's a lot of crossover, but it's nice to be able to appeal to a wide range of people.
And do you see new faces coming in? Because obviously there are a lot of people move over to the Isle of Man rather than being here for years or something. Do you find people sort of think, oh gosh, they discover the scene, and then you suddenly see new faces coming in and thinking, hey, I didn't know there wasn't actually a sort of a drag scene, a gay scene, a club scene like this actually going on the Isle of Man?
Yeah, 100%. I think there have been people that I have met at our shows where I've been like, how do I not know you already? There are definitely new people coming all the time. I especially found was it the 18th of December we did a show, and a lot of people had come back from university or had brought their university friends back, and like there was definitely, I'd seen many people who were of a similar age to me that I had never seen before.
Yeah.
So it is nice to know that, because a lot of people will visit the Isle of Man and they will say, where is the gay bar? And then you have to say there isn't one. So when we are able to sort of do a camp little takeover of like straight venues, I think it's important for people who are visiting and for people that live here all the time.
Absolutely.
And just remind us again then, anyone wants to go along on Friday night, best way to do it, how do they get tickets, how do they get in?
Yes, so it's Friday night. It's through Mad Jacks or through myself or Nona, so that's at Fenella Beach or at Nona Binary on all the social media. You can find tickets there. Tickets start from £10. You can get them on the door as well. But it's cheaper if you book in advance, and we'd love to get you in there. So everybody, obviously 18 plus because it's a club night, but apart from that, everybody who's open and willing and wants to have fun and have a camp time is welcome.
Also, if you spot any posters around Strand Street in town, you can scan the QR code to get tickets there too.
Ding!
Channel your inner Gaga and get down there. If the island's flourishing drag arts and gay scene is your happy place, what we really need is some classic Indian music inspired by her, and then we could have a Raga Gaga. All right, we'll catch up with Owen, also a bard of course, soon to hear about the release of his latest collection of poetry, by the way. Author Joanne Clague, no stranger to this show, her prolific output continues as she releases her, wait for it, 5th book, The Light-Fingered Lass. It's the 2nd book in her 2nd trilogy, published by Canello, and again stays in her highly successful genre of historical fiction set in the north of England. I asked her about the inspiration to this latest book in her 2nd trilogy, which is known, the trilogy collectively, as The House of Help.
While I was writing the first series, I came across an institution called the House of Help for Friendless Girls. It sounded so Dickensian to me, and again I thought I'm really interested in this, so what can I find out about it? So I did. So book 1, The House of Hope, introduces the women who run the House of Help, how it came about, and I thought I could make a really good series from focusing on the women, because it was female-led, on the women who ran it, but also on the girls, some as young as 11 and 12, who came to the house, destitute girls and young women. I thought that could make quite a rich series. There's so much potential and so much material. So The Light-Fingered Lass, which is the book that's just come out, The Light-Fingered Lass is someone who goes to the house. She ends up at the house, and you can probably tell from the title what her crime is. So that's the gist of that story.
Is it, as a rule of thumb then, for most of the novels you've done so far, is it a case of the background is, the history is real, the institutions are genuine? Are any of the characters based on real characters, or are they all fictional?
In the House of Help series, all of the characters are fictional. There are a couple of people that I mention by name, although they don't have a walk-on role. The Member of Parliament of the day, for example, Mr. Mundella, he gets a mention, but he's not in the story. And the reason for that was that I've got some quite juicy storylines, I suppose you could say, and I didn't want to put any of that onto any historical figures. So in my House of Help series, the warden of the house is a complete figment of my imagination, and so are all the other people involved, because that meant I could have a lot more freedom. That's what I did with these characters. The first series was slightly different because one of the main characters in the Ragged Valley was the engineer of the day. He was scapegoated for the collapse of the dam, of the Dale Dyke Dam, and I wanted to give him a voice. So, I mean, obviously it's not his voice, it's mine, but I really kind of fell in love with him, and I just wanted him to be part of the story. I felt so sorry for him. So there's that difference really between the first and second series, but all of my main characters are purely fictional. It's nice to hang a fictional story off a a real event.
And do they sort of form organically in your head, as it were, as you're doing your research? You're looking into buildings, institutions like the House of Help in this case. Do you sort of just have these characters organically forming in your head and thinking, yes, I could have this woman here, I could have this young girl here, whatever? Or do you actually have to sort of sit down and then populate the place?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, obviously, it just goes back to the old standard, which is, what if? What if this person turns up at the house, and what if this happens to them, and what if they meet this person? And so I do before I start writing, I spend quite a lot of time developing the characters. I do that actually while I'm doing the research. So while I was researching the House of Help, I was thinking about the people who might work there, what they might be like, obviously, what their characters would be. I was able to go to the Sheffield archive and actually look at a ledger that was written at the time, and that was very exciting to see, to look at that ink on the page, and what that ledger gave me. It was just a very brief record of arrivals and departures. So there'd be a 14-year-old girl who might end up at the House of Help, and perhaps she was a thief or she was doing something that she shouldn't be doing. She might end up being sent to the workhouse. A lot of girls were sent into domestic service. So from those few paragraphs, I was able to kind of develop some of the characters of the people who would turn up at the house.
Light Fingered Lass is out now. Available in all good bookshops, as they say. Any signings coming up?
And all bad ones? Yes, actually. On Saturday the 15th of March, I'm up at the Bridge bookshop on Parliament Street in Ramsey, signing books. The Bridge has been brilliant, actually. They stock my books. When I've done talks, I take their stock along with me. So they've been really, really supportive up there. Angela and Harry, really lovely. So that's happening on the 15th.
And finally, of course, here we are then at the end of, or we're coming towards the end, as we've said. This is number 5. Number 6 is already done and dusted.
Yep.
We'll no doubt chat about that in the not too far distant future. The Rebel Daughter, was that the number 6?
Yeah, the Rebel Daughter. Yeah.
That completes trilogy number 2. So where then?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I've got an idea, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. But I do.
Secret.
Yeah, I do have an idea for the next book, and it's a little bit of a departure, so I'm very excited about it, actually.
You come and tell us here first then?
I will, yes. When I can, I definitely will.
Do drop in for the signing if you're around. I'm sure Jo would love to have a chat with you. And where will she head next in her writing career? Watch this space. Just time for a quick poem from the second part of a chat we had with Queer Mag's poet Simon Maddrell about his latest collection, Patient L1, which depicts through verse the life of Jonathan Blake, who was diagnosed so early in the UK AIDS epidemic that he was simply named Patient L1 at London Middlesex Hospital and is immortalised in the film Pride. I asked Simon, of course, before he left us, if he could give us a reading from this latest collection.
Yeah, I mean, I thought one that talked about his partner Nigel was one, and it's called Every Hazel Has a Story. In 1863, the curious curled and twisted hazel was discovered in a Frochester hedgerow. Its corkscrew branches bear heart-shaped leaves, mid-green and toothed, also slightly distorted. Being both male and female, the male flopping yellow catkins turn into a cobnut with a short peppery casing where the nut protrudes. The female flowers into a filbert husk, which is long and covers its nut. Both are sweet and tasty. Nigel and I planted one in the Co-op garden in April 1989, and now it towers over me. Unlike Nigel. Instead, his ashes mingle with the roots, feed mycelium like Celtic magic. He talks to the magnolia tree, as do I. The row of willow, hawthorn and hazel is calling out to be hand-woven like Nigel did, weaving the text of his plays, performing them in the living room next door. nurturing my contorted spirit.
Lovely, touching, and again, just that some of those sort of trademarks pictures as well, very fun indeed. Yeah, it would be remiss of us not to have a little catch up here and say, obviously, talking about patient L1. We'll just get details on where people can get that if they're interested in a moment. But we mentioned debut collection, Blue Spine, is forthcoming. That's something you're working on now. Can you give us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, Blue Spine's its working title. I have a feeling that maybe the publisher wants to change that, but yes, the publisher is Outspoken Press, who only publish 6 books or pamphlets every 18 months. So to be chosen by them is a real honour, and particularly Outspoken do a monthly event at the South Bank Centre in London, which is apparently is the biggest poetry event in Europe. So they were my dream publisher to work with. So absolutely delighted. And Anthony Outsaguru, the publisher and editor, is a marvellous man. He was my first ever teacher in poetry. So it's his fault that I kept on going. Yeah, it'll be very exciting to do that. And like we mentioned before, I will look at creating some sort of poets event in the Isle of Man to mark that next year.
Brilliant. Look forward to that. And just finally, if people want to find out more about your work, want to perhaps be able to get a hold of Patient L1 or any other work, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, well, you can get me on social media at Simon Maddrell, one word, almost anywhere. Probably next week, my website, simonmaddrell.com, will be launched. But if you look on social media, you can find I've got a link in .bio as well, but you can find all the links to both buying the book, and we have an online launch Monday the 24th at 7:30 if people wanted to attend that.
If you want to hear more about his latest pamphlet, Patient L1, check out last week's Spotlight podcast, and we'll catch up again with Simon before the release of his book next year. That's about it for now. We'll be hearing about the new Biosphere Photographer in Residence role, among other things, next week. See you then, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Hemo.